In life, you're going to face all kinds of decisions and choices. Should I fight for this friendship or should I let it go? Should I go to this school or that school? Should I pursue this career or this other career? Should I date this person or should I not? Like, your life is really just a series of decisions that you face and choices that you have to make. And in the first century, when the Apostle Paul is writing to a group of Christians in the city of Ephesus, he gives us some insight into how to make better decisions, how we can live life and make better decisions. And I'm going to read it to you. It's Ephesians chapter 5, verses 15 through 17. He says, "Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity because the days are evil." Because the days are evil. Let me explain this. You see, Paul and the other early Christians believe, this is something that Jesus taught, that the world that we live in right now is actually broken. It's actually messed up. And this doesn't take long for you to see. If you just scroll through social media for a couple minutes, you can see how our world is full of things like sin and sickness and disease and death and natural disasters. Our world right now, as we experience it, we know there's something wrong. The world is not the way that God initially intended it to be. And that's why Paul says the days are evil. And because the days are evil, though we believe that one day Jesus is going to come back, he's going to return, and he's going to make all things new, all things right. Right now, the world that we are living in, it is important to live not unwise, but wise. Think about it this way. If you were ever going to visit a nuclear power plant, you were going to visit a space where you knew there's a bunch of radioactive material, that's a dangerous environment. When you get there and they give you a safety demonstration, you're going to pay great attention to this safety demonstration because you would understand that in this environment, if you make one wrong turn, if you go into the wrong room, if you touch the wrong object, when you're around radioactive material, you understand there are great consequences to your actions. When you are in a dangerous environment, you understand the need to live wisely. And Paul says the days that we're living in, the world that we're living in, it is evil. So we need to live wisely. And that brings us to the book of Proverbs. There is actually an entire book in our Bibles. There's several actually, and you can learn wisdom from all the various books in our Bibles. There's 3 books in particular that we refer to as wisdom literature. Proverbs is one of those books. And the way that the book of Proverbs starts tells us what the starting place is for getting wisdom and making good decisions. Proverbs chapter 1, verses 5 through 7 says this: "Let the wise listen and add to their learning, and let the discerning get guidance, for understanding proverbs and parables, the sayings and riddles of the wise. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction." That idea that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge is actually the distinguishing mark from the book of Proverbs compared to all the other ancient wisdom literature that's out there. If you compare Proverbs against all the other ancient wisdom traditions, the thing that makes this book different, the thing that makes the advice here different, is that it starts from this place that says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of all knowledge. And our English word for fear is a little bit more narrow than the Hebrew word for fear. In English, when we say we're afraid of something, we think that something is terrifying and we don't want anything to do with it. You know, if you say you're afraid of spiders, you would be happy if you never saw another spider in your life. But the Hebrew word for fear is a bit more broad. Not only does this convey the idea that you're afraid of something, but it conveys the idea that you recognize that thing has power. If you can imagine an ancient tribe seeing far away that an invading army is approaching them, when they say there is fear, not only are they afraid, they recognize there is a great power there that I should probably fall in line with. And similarly, the writer of Proverbs says the fear of the Lord is the beginning of all knowledge. In other words, the big idea is this: we start to become wise. We start to make better decisions when we start by recognizing that God is more powerful than we are and that God actually knows better than we do. That the beginning place for all types of decision making and growing in wisdom, the starting place is when we recognize God knows what's best. So I would do right to fall in line with what He says. And that's why this month we're studying the book of Proverbs. If you've never read it, I would encourage you to read it. It is one of the primary ways that you place yourself under the instruction of God and His wisdom. And all month long, we're going to be releasing videos here, which will basically be abbreviated versions of the teachings that we're doing here on Sundays. So all month long, we'll look at the book of Proverbs to try to understand, where do we actually get wisdom in life? How do we implement that wisdom? We're not going to come close to exploring everything that the book of Proverbs teaches, but hopefully together as we study it, we'll be able to learn, how do we actually make better decisions, and how do we live with the fear of the Lord as the beginning of knowledge. We love you. If you're not subscribed to the channel already, subscribe so that you'll see all the other videos that we release, and hope to see you on Sundays.